Everybody has a right to live.
Epidemics emerge along the fissures of our society, reflecting not only the biology of the infectious agent, but patterns of marginalization, exclusion, and discrimination. The coronavirus pandemic is no exception and is rooted in decades of systemic racism, poverty, ecological devastation, militarism, and a false moral narrative of religious extremism.
Easter, Passover, and Ramadan are holy observances that affirm the sacredness of life. Our religious traditions insist upon care for the vulnerable and outcast while affirming interconnection. Zechariah 7:10 reminds us, "Do not oppress the widow, the fatherless, the sojourner, or the poor, and let none of you devise evil against another in your heart."
This virus emerges in the midst of long-existing wounds in the United States, wounds from generations of racist policies and the criminalization of poverty. Before a single case of COVID-19 was diagnosed, nearly 700 people a day died in the United States from poverty. Our faith demands clear action that transforms the way that we treat the most marginalized and the poorest in our society. No one is ever expendable.
Jesus challenged oppression and cared for the poor. We need a resurrection, a real resurrection, not a false and a derelict worship, but one that cares for the most vulnerable. A resurrection of the constitutional values that places we before the capitulation to corporate greed. We need a resurrection of the conviction that we are all endowed by our Creator with the right to live. We therefore demand a guaranteed and adequate annual income and a living wage for all, including essential workers, low-wage workers, care providers, grocery workers, service and other frontline workers in this crisis and beyond. We demand immediate, comprehensive, and permanent paid sick leave for 100% of employees, so that we can all care for ourselves and our families during this pandemic and beyond. We demand adequate protections for all essential workers, including our healthcare workers, in this crisis. Somebody is hurting our people, and it's gone on far too long.
We the people
demand a moral agenda. This Passover holiday feels more resonant than ever. We all have a deepened understanding of what it means to be a society in the grip of a plague. When this pandemic is over, if we simply rebuild with the same brokenness, we will have failed. Instead, we demand a moral agenda, a moral society, a more just, compassionate society that keeps the needs of the vulnerable at the forefront, the needs of the widow, the orphan, and the stranger. It means creating safe shelter and affordable housing for the 11 million Americans who are homeless or on the verge of homelessness. It means ensuring that no one goes hungry, from the kids who rely on school breakfast and lunches to the workers who wonder, where is their next meal coming from? We need strong programs to support people with disabilities that allow them to live with dignity and strength. We need paid sick leave for all workers. And we need to build a society where our criminal justice system is rooted in the principles of justice. Only by rebuilding with these principles in mind, will we be free, truly free, from the shackles that have bound us. This year, we are slaves. Next year, may all be free.
We, the people.
We demand a moral agenda. Jeremiah 5:28 cries out, "They have grown fat and sleek. They know no bounds in their deeds of evil. They judge not with justice the cause of the fatherless, and they do not defend the rights of the needy." 140 million people who are poor are one emergency closer to poverty today. And we are decrying the hypocrisy of an unjust ruler who declares victory as human bodies overflow morgues. We demand a moral agenda. We demand immediate health care for all, including 100% free COVID-19 testing. We demand open enrollment for all in affordable health care. We demand treatment and quality care for all. We demand the expansion of Medicaid and the relief of medical debt. Yes, we are fighting a pandemic, and we are fighting poverty.
We, the people.
Demand a moral agenda. Ramadan is a time of fasting and sacrifice to clarify what is necessary and just. It is right and just that protections are enacted for people in mental health facilities, prisons, and juvenile detention centers, especially supplies, personnel, testing, and treatment. This includes the release of all at-risk populations and nonviolent offenders and detainees. There are 2.3 million incarcerated people and over 52,000 people in detention centers. We insist on the suspension of all CBP and ICE enforcement and ensuring all emergency provisions are made available to immigrants, including undocumented people.
We, the people.
Demand a moral agenda. As we rapidly approach an election during a global pandemic, there must be protections for our democracy and the right to vote, with expanded opportunities to vote during this crisis and an expanded census to ensure every person is accounted for. There are 52 million eligible, poor, and low-income voters whose right to vote in 2020 elections is not protected, and millions more will be uncounted if our census isn't supported. Protect our democracy to protect us all.
We the people.
Demand a moral agenda. As we seek justice for the poor in our own country, we must end the wars on the poor around the world. There are 110 million people in Iran and Venezuela, hard hit during this crisis, who face ongoing economic sanctions. Our nation must lift all military and economic sanctions, end unnecessary military operations overseas, and bring our troops home. There's an army rising up to break every chain.
Many millions of us have been hurting for far too long.
We will not be silent anymore.